Hey guys, I'm Rand Younger, and another episode of Under the Radar, where we talk all things film. And with me tonight, I have a wonderful panel of guest critics, as always. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Thomas Puglisi. Welcome back, Thomas.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be back.
Yeah, anytime. And I love your shirt.
Thanks.
Um,
Of course,
very,
the tab.
very appropriate for our Scream discussion tonight. And also, Brian Smith, welcome back to the show. Your second time on. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. And yeah, this is one of my favorite film series, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. Me too. Me too. Yeah. And I know you two are big horror buffs. So I thought it was only fitting that I have you on for this look at Wes Craven's franchise. So, but before we get into that, I just want to go around and talk about what we're watching this week. I know there's always so much content out there. I just try to schedule my time appropriately just so I catch the best stuff. Right now, I'm going back to talk show host school with Johnny Carson, with random film clips, TV clips rather, of Johnny Carson on YouTube. So I watch that a lot on my lunch break at work. I've also been I started up Bubkiss on Peacock, starring Pete Davidson, which is actually a very funny, sort of a sitcom about his life, sort of based on his real life, being a celebrity and all the trappings of that lifestyle. So that is Bupkis now on Peacock. Also on Peacock, last night I finished watching Inside, starring Willem Dafoe, which was actually a very interesting film about an art thief who gets trapped in a high-rise penthouse apartment, and he basically has to survive trapped in this apartment, kind of like Castaway meets Panic Room. So that's also on Peacock. Highly recommended. It's very good. And let's see, what else? Oh, today I joined fellow friend of the show, Mr. Matt Haberman. We suited up as Ghostbusters today to go to the Kulanu Kids Fair in Cedarhurst, Long Island. Just walking around, making kids happy, just handing out stickers, posing for photos. So it was just a nice day, and we made a lot of people happy at that event. So enough for me. Brian, what have you been watching this week?
I've been catching up. I've actually been catching up on Cobra Kai, the latest season on Netflix. Yeah, I had just finished the latest slasher series, the Ripper season
Okay.
on Shudder, and last week I'd gone to a screening of a free screening of The Blackening, which is coming out on Juneteenth, and I recommend it. I definitely thought it was a lot of fun in the theater, and I'll be writing a review of that for Gruesome Magazine soon. But yeah, it's one of those early films that I just saw, and I also just saw Fast X for the second time last night.
Well,
Saw it in 4DX, and yeah, it's a fun movie. It's completely ridiculous, but it's
yeah,
fun.
of course, of course. It's the 10th installment. That's insane.
Yep, yep.
All right. Well, I think I've only seen a handful of them. I think actually my favorite was probably the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw. I thought that was pretty entertaining, but they're all pretty entertaining. So it's kind of hard to keep track after a while. How about you, Thomas? What have you been watching?
Well, just yesterday I did see Fast X, and I've really enjoyed it myself. But I'm a I'm a pretty big fan of the Fast and Furious series. I've seen all of them, enjoyed majority of them. Yeah, Fast X was ridiculous, of course, but well, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoyed Jason Momoa's character. I mean, like I could tell that he took inspiration from Heath Ledger's Joker. So like, yeah, he was a lot of fun. And earlier I watched Magnum Force, the sequel to Dirty Harry. So like it was actually a first time watch for me because I've actually never seen all the Dirty Harry sequels. I saw the first Dirty Harry a few years ago.
I think I've only seen a handful of those as well. The Deadpool was actually I enjoyed that one a lot because it was an early role from Jim Carrey. So he plays like a rock and roll guy who meets a rather grim end, but again, very entertaining franchise. Great to see Clint Eastwood, with a big gun fighting for justice. So that's awesome. All right, guys. So we've got the Scream franchise right in front of us. We've got 6 films. Now, the sixth one, the final, well, is this the final one, or are they gonna do more?
From what I know, they are going to be
The most
doing this.
recent one, yeah. I think they
Okay.
picked up a new one, right? I think they already announced they're
Okay.
coming
Yeah, I'm
back.
pretty expensive, but like I don't know if they're when they're going to actually film it. Like
Right.
they're not going to rush like into filming like they did with this one.
Right. Well, they're gonna keep making these because these are really big money makers. The sixth one has the cast in New York City this time, which is amazing because I am a native New Yorker. Thomas, I know you're Long Island. Brian, are you a native New Yorker?
I am, and I
Yeah.
pay very special attention to New York details in movies.
Yeah, and I believe that this installment was shot mostly in Montreal, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which I was not surprised. I knew they were going to go that route, the Jason Takes Manhattan route, as it were,
Right.
of filming New York City in a totally different area. But I think they did a pretty decent job, and there's some exterior shots that are definitely Manhattan, but mostly, it's I don't know, it's a little mixed for me in
Mhm.
terms of emotions here. What did you guys think of the way they depicted New York City here?
Well, I mean, like it's like you said, like I felt the New York aspect was a bit tame because it was mostly like seeing apartment buildings,
Right.
mostly just close-ups. Yeah, there was like some like far away shots in New York City, which I think was just like something they did with, like second unit directing, or
Right.
maybe it was archive footage, but I think it was second unit directing though. But
Yeah.
like but like I would have liked to have seen like maybe Ghostface in some famous New York locations, like maybe him at in Times Square, or
Right.
him maybe the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
So I think
Anywhere.
oh yeah,
Anywhere to just show how authentic it is.
Mhm.
oh yeah. And I
Yeah.
know that's what they were originally supposed to do with Jason Takes Manhattan, but they just couldn't afford to do all that stuff.
I'm just grateful for that one shot in Jason Takes Manhattan where he's in Times Square. That was the money shot for me. And I was
Mhm.
expecting a money shot in Scream 6, but we didn't really have that. And the character development, like the last one, for me, it was somewhat lacking. It was nice to see Courtney Cox back, the one of the legacy characters from the original films, from all of the films actually. And I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but Nev Campbell is not in this, and that was disappointing. I was expecting to see her.
No, it was known.
No,
Yeah, it was. They
She was
announced that
she was public about
before
it.
filming started.
There were
wait,
theories that she would come in. We in spoiler territory, but or
I
did I
mean,
mention it?
so
There were there were
okay,
there were theories she
so
would show up. But,
okay, sorry, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. So since this movie is still sort of fresh and new, let's try to refrain from spoilers. When we get into the 1 through 5 discussion, then we can go crazy with the spoilers. But for this film, there were some twists and turns that got me. And like all Scream films, I definitely look forward to those twists, those spoilers, those twists and turns are amazing. I don't know though. I might have to say that this might be my least favorite of the entire franchise. I might, yeah, I think I'm gonna go there. But I thought the death scenes were okay. There was a particularly good scene involving a ladder. I'm not gonna say much more. But this one, yeah, just overall, it was sort of lacking for me. Thomas, what did you think?
Well, I really personally enjoyed it. I mean, like I really did like the train scene, like with seeing like all the people in costumes, because I really liked how picking out like people in costumes, like saw Jason in the background, saw Pinhead in the background, and also like it creates a mystery of like since there was a few people in a ghost face costume, like which one is the real one, or which one's just a guy in a costume. But I do agree with certain stuff, like I felt the city stuff was a little too tamed. I would have liked to have seen more of the city, and like the plot twist, I'm not going to spoil that, but I will just say that it's basically like almost similar to the one in Scream 2.
Yeah.
So like I really did also really like the Halloween 2018 nod with like, having like the original masks back, and they're all like, all like discolored, all cracked looking.
Mhm.
So I really liked that whole thing. I just really in general liked the shrine to like the previous Ghostface wells, like because you can like pick out some Easter eggs, like you see Skeet Ulrich's bloody shirt, you see the TV that smashed Matthew Lillard's face.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So it had like some pretty good nostalgias, and it had some pretty good death scenes. But I do think yes, it was a little disappointing compared to like ones like Scream 4, Scream the Scream 5, or as that one is called, Scream.
Yeah.
but like it's not my least favorite though.
Okay.
But I did enjoy it though.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Brian, thoughts on the sixth installment?
It's not my least favorite. I actually was fine with it. The death scenes are pretty, particularly the opening moments are pretty vicious. That's always interesting. I guess they have to ramp it up as they go along. But I did take some of that home with me after just thinking about it and stuff. I think it's more based on who it happens to and how it's performed. It's done very well. But yeah, I like some of the nods to the original. I mean, it seems like they're still doing that. They're not nods to the original series, of course, which is funny because it's the whole thing about the series as it's gone along has always harkened back to movies of yore of the olden days, and now it's the movie itself is commenting on its own history. It's become this own thing of like the stab films and the stab series, so now they can just comment on that.
Right.
And there's no real continuity in that world, so they can keep making stuff up as they go along in terms of, oh yeah, there's time travel, there's this, and all the other series. So yeah, it's ripe for, they can mine a lot of jokes out of that. um but overall, yeah, my biggest gripe was the New York aspect of it. As a New Yorker and someone who always, I can think back to, of course, you're an expert, Ghostbusters. It's just one of my favorite movies that feels like a New York film. And I feel like it takes a while. It's taken a while for us to see that on screen in a while, where you feel that the texture and, even the balcony sequence in Scream 6 felt like it was a soundstage. I think it was real. I think it was actually real. It was just the way it was lit, the way it was
Mm.
shot. It looked like a kind of a soundstage. But yeah, I think a few key moments in New York, if you're going to build it up that much and have the posters out in Times Square and all across the city and really hype it up, and then your movie takes place maybe on a corner
Yeah.
of New York,
Yeah. Yeah.
visually, it's like, all right, they I guess they couldn't afford to pay Nev, so they weren't going to afford to pay
It
to for
really,
New York.
that was definitely the most disappointing aspect for me. The lack of authenticity and dedication to New York, not just as a location, but as a character, because Manhattan is so bustling with activity. It really is alive.
Mhm.
And I think the filmmakers here really missed a really good opportunity.
It
So
felt like it was made by people who have never been to New York or really didn't understand. And the funny thing is, we have a Viacom, uh, office in Times Square. They could have
yeah,
just,
yeah.
rented that out and used it for something. But I don't know.
Yeah, they could have for sure. Um, they could have
Save some
found
money.
like some time, like really, really late at night, and kind of blocked off that area of the Viacom building, because I know that's the Paramount building too.
Yeah,
And this film and a bunch of the other Scream installments are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
all part of
So
it. Yeah, they could have set up a whole. They could have done it something there. Yeah,
yeah.
anything. Yeah.
So again, wasted opportunity. The only strong aspect of this film for me, I mean, the death scenes are pretty on point. It Courtney Cox had a fantastic scene in her apartment in this.
Mhm.
It was great to see her back. Hayden Panettiere is back from the fourth film, I believe it was.
Yeah,
So
I just really enjoyed seeing her back as well, because she was such a really fun character from the fourth movie, and I did like how it kind of felt like they evolved her a little bit. Now she's a cop, which is a pretty cool idea, because if you remember what happened to her towards the end of Scream 4, she gets stabbed in the stomach, and we think she's dead, but like turns out she actually survived that. And so that's actually was a pretty good way of fitting her in, that she's a cop now, and also a good way of like connecting her to the character of Samantha, that they knew each other from school,
right.
because yeah, they looked about the same age.
Mhm. And I just love that they're bringing back important and even non-important characters from previous installments to kind of connect everything together, to really make it a franchise that relies on these strong characters. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, that's probably my biggest takeaway from this is those returning characters, which I love.
Yeah. Well, like I noticed that like franchise was pretty much like the theme of this one, because when you really look back at all these movies, they all have a certain theme. The first movie's theme was horror movies. The second movie was sequels. The third movie was trilogies. The fourth movie was remakes, and the fifth movie was requels. So
Right.
this was franchises, which I personally had a feeling that's what was going to be the theme of this one.
Now, would this be considered a requel? What do you think, or a sequel to the requel? I don't know. Maybe they
I-
haven't made a term yet.
I mean, they're definitely doing the reboot aspect right. I would say that the films have been pretty consistent. Like,
Mm,
I'll have people say, "Hey, I'm thinking of going and see Scream 5 or 6. Should I see the others?" And it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. But they don't know. But of course, but it's one of the few
hmm,
especially horror franchises that has a continuity.
mhm.
That even if you saw the fifth one, it would help to know what happened before and see just sit back
Right,
and watch the other films. But yeah, I know a lot of people that are just like, I'm just gonna go see this movie, Scream 6, whatever. It's whatever.
right.
That drives me crazy because it's like continuity.
I
It's
know.
really one of the few franchises that's done it well. In a way, even
Yeah.
in their weakest film, they're still keeping it. It's still tied to everything that's come before.
Yeah. Yeah, I think younger audiences like teenagers would just see this right away and are like, I don't think they would be that confused by what's going on because it's pretty straightforward, but
Okay.
it might spark their curiosity, and then they'll go back to the 1996 film that started it all and kind of just work their way up to this one. Yeah, I don't know. I was really looking forward to this, but you know what? I was let down. I wasn't surprised. It was just a mediocre film. You guys probably like it more than I do, but I don't know.
I have my theories on the reveal, and it didn't play into that. It's the same way with the fifth one.
Mm,
I had my theories on that, and it went a totally different place. Maybe for the next one, Thomas, as a horror and Scream fan, you probably know what I'm getting at. But there were rumors about certain people showing up, and it didn't happen. I'm like, you know,
Well, like
I just feel like the ghost face of part 5 and 6, they've been very strong, and I feel like it should be like a legacy. You're relying so much on the legacy. There's you could you know bring back some more legacy people.
yeah,
yeah,
fun.
I agree. I mean, something I've been seeing a lot of fans have been hoping that they would do is bring back Matthew Lillard, despite like
That's
he
what,
got
yeah.
the face, because like I've like been reading stuff that's like they actually thought of bringing him back for Scream 3, but that got
Mhm.
rejected,
Hmm.
and like they even had actually a little nod to that in this movie, like that scene where they're at the police station. They have the board of all like the pictures of the other killers, and when it had like pictures, it said like dead for them, but when it had Matthew Lillard, it had a question mark. So
Mhm.
yeah, so
Huh.
it's possible he could be still alive.
There's little Easter eggs that I have a feeling that if they were to bring him back, of course Nev would have to be there, and it would have to be the big final
Mm,
something. It'd have to tie it all to the end if they're going to do
yeah.
that. But
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
yeah.
Something
I would like to see his face all scarred up.
that would be
Someone did
interesting.
like a fan video. I think they did something with or they used like Deadpool or something. I don't know, something. It was like a fan trailer, but they used like a picture of Deadpool. When he's like without his mask.
That'd be cool if they can maybe do maybe a future Scream, but from the perspective of the killer. I don't know.
They
Like,
kind of hinted. They tried. It was like a hint of that here in the opening
yeah,
of part 6.
but we didn't get enough of that. What I loved, going back a bit, part 5 was the main character, I forget her name, having those visions of Skeet Ulrich's character, Billy Loomis.
Well,
Smash-
she's
That was
Sam. She's Sam
right.
Loomis, which is a
Sam
nod
Loomis.
to Halloween
Yeah,
and Psycho.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
like yeah. Well, technically, like in this movie, like her character's name's actually Samantha Carpenter, which is obviously
Sam
not
Carpenter,
John
right?
Carpenter.
Right,
Yeah, so
John.
Right.
John
Carpenter.
Carpenter, Dr. Loomis. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
like
it.
oh yeah. Well, they did a little nod to Wes Craven in the previous movie, like the character's name Wes Hicks, which is obviously named after Wes Craven.
Mhm.
Perfect. And going back even further to the first film, there's a scene where the janitor is wearing Freddy Krueger garb, and I believe that was Wes Craven in a cameo, if I'm not
That
mistaken.
was
Yeah.
Wes Craven.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's still one of my favorite cameos. It's so funny.
Oh yeah.
it's pretty great.
I mean, I still remember when I watched that movie as a kid, my dad was actually the one who pointed that nod out to me. I mean, I didn't get the nod because I didn't see the Freddy Krueger movies at the time, but my dad, I knew of Freddy Krueger though, of course, but yeah, my dad just like pointed out, like, he paused it and he was like explaining, you see, he's wearing the same sweater as Freddy Krueger, and the principal, Henry Winkler's character, says, "Not you, Fred."
Your dad is very observant, sir. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that kind of humor, maybe it was all really down to like Kevin Williamson's writing and the combination with his writing and Wes's direction. I feel like that humor is kind of missing in the new films.
Yeah.
I like them; they're entertaining, but there's a fun quirkiness that's missing. It's all about the brutality and the violence, which yes, screams were violent and brutal here and there, but it's usually the aftermath. Now we're sort of, I guess they're ramping it up, so we're seeing the deaths, happen in real time and everything. And it's
Yeah.
very, as a horror fan, yes, it's fine, but I think that there is a fun quality that seems to be missing that I wish we could bring back. I don't know.
Totally agree with that last comment. The first film was so original, so ahead of its time, and it jump started the slasher genre. We don't really have that freshness in part 6 anymore. It's kind of like going by the numbers. It doesn't seem like much originality has been put into the script.
Well, what's happening with this and with most movies is that I think it's not to blame them, but it's kind of the Marvel effect. It's like everyone's doing the Marvel thing now. Even, Fast and Furious movies are doing it. Everyone's going ahead with the franchise thing and, uh, sort of, shared universes and whatnot, and really just toying with that. Yeah, I guess, sure, it makes money, but it lacks something like in terms of like its own standalone thing.
Right.
You have to, it's constantly tying into the past and not being its own thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's
I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a Scream multiverse type of thing going here. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
if they do it right, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does happen, I think if they did it right, it'd be a lot of fun. But I'm not sure. But you know what? We're actually going to take a short commercial break, but we will be back with our rankings and our discussion of the entire franchise up till 1 through 5. So we'll be back right after this word.
Under the Radar is brought to you by Magnitude Jewelry. Add a 2 to match your attitude. Patent pending interchange genuine gemstone and crystal EMF protection jewelry. For more information, please visit magnitudejewelry.com/gemgirl or call 718-268-6634.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Randy Younger on the Radar. Welcome back, guys. All right, we are now at the really fun part, where we're going to discuss all of the Scream films prior to the newest one, part 6. So let's just go in order here. So we've got one of the greatest slasher films of all time, Scream, came out in 1996, directed by Wes Craven. We all know that opening. There you go, Thomas. that opening sequence with Drew Barrymore, it's heartbreaking, it's terrifying, and it basically sets the stage for the entire franchise. I think it still holds up. It's, you know, it's 27 years old right now.
Wow.
And yeah, it really is a classic at this point.
Yeah.
And just real quick, guys, what are your thoughts on the original Mr. Puglisi?
Well, the original movie is actually
You're
like
a
a
fan, I
personal
can see.
favorite movie. Yeah, it's actually a personal favorite movie of mine. I do want to just add that that over there is autographed by both Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich. Just wanted to,
That's
just
cool.
wanted to say that first. But it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's something I really do hold close to me, because not just is it one of my favorite horror movies of all time, it's the movie that actually got me into horror, because like when I was a kid, when these movies were new, I wasn't allowed to watch, like, you know, horror movies or R-rated movies in general. And so, but I had, like, you know, some permission from my parents that they did let me watch Scream, but of course there was a catch I had, was that I couldn't see them in the theater. So like I saw them through renting them on at Blockbuster. And like, you know, I've basically became a horror fan, like, you know, practically through that. Like, so the Scream series, and also the I Know What You Did Last Summer series, I also wanted to give that a little shout out to. That also got me into horror. And so yeah, like, you know, I actually thought Scream was a scary movie when I was a kid. That opening scene with Drew Barrymore, like on the phone, like, you know, that creepy voice, like it was something that always really scared me. The seeing that aftermath of Drew Barrymore hanging by her neck with her guts hanging out, that actually, of course, scared me as well. And like the scene, Rose McGowan's death scene, where she gets the garage door, like, you know, crushed around her neck. That scene actually scared me as well. And yeah, I even remember some kids I was in school with at the time, like we used to actually like do the whole entire "what's your favorite scary movie" thing, like as a little fun thing. And so it's always just been, like, you know, a fun movie. A movie I like to pop in every once in a while. I think it holds up. It's one of Wes Craven's best movies. It's my second favorite Wes Craven movie behind Nightmare on Elm Street. And a funny thing I mentioned that is because he actually did a little nod to Nightmare on Elm Street with that part in the beginning where they said that Nightmare on Elm Street was my favorite movie. And and they said, like, you know, well, the first one was good, but all the rest sucked, which was actually Wes Craven himself right there.
Good line.
Yeah,
it's awesome. And you know, so the original, it really established something great. The combination of really gory death scenes, great tension, and really strong humor. So I think the humor mixed with the violence was just such a great, potent mix, and it really set the stage for everything else.
Oh yeah, I just really liked how the humor was very self-aware. Like, you know, that's practically knows it's a horror movie. Like, you know, that's, you probably would say like, oh, this is just a generic horror movie, but however, like they're pointing it out that it's generic, so it's like, you know, it's having fun with that whole thing.
All right. Brian, how about you? Impressions of the original film?
Well, speaking as the fossil on this Zoom meeting, I was in college when this movie came out. So yeah, and I was my first. I really got into horror and Fangoria in like 1988. That was like my first issue of Fangoria that I bought, and that was a good year for horror and stuff like that. But I had already been aware of like you know, Halloween and basically every film that was mentioned in Scream. It felt like it was talking to me because I was, by that point I'd already had that education on it. So yeah, seeing it in the theater was a lot. I did see it in the theater, was fun. I think because I knew the tropes going in, I just didn't know how they were going to play out, you know, in Wes Craven's hands, of course, because Wes is such a fantastic director. I miss him every day. Um,
Me too.
I knew, you know, a lot of people were like, you know, the poster, especially the poster behind you there, Thomas. I love that poster because it's such a, it harkens back to a lot of the early 80s horror films. It just has that style to it. Like all, there's about 4 posters on your wall right now that I love. Um, I haven't seen, is that Lord of Illusions back there?
Lord of Illusion.
But yeah, all the other films, all top favorites. I haven't seen Lord of Illusions yet, but uh, even the marketing, the poster was, had that sort of classy, you know, mystery thriller to it. Didn't really have a style of like, this is going to be a bloodbath, it's going to be gory and guts. You know, you didn't expect all of that. I like that they held their they had they held their hand there, close to their chest, and didn't show you anything in the trailers.
Mm.
I did know that Drew was going to get it the minute she picked up the phone, because as a horror fan, it's either, well, you watch the trailers, she's only in that one scene in the way it's edited, and Nev Campbell, who has Final Girl energy anyway, she's in most of the trailer running and being chased by the killer. So I knew it was gonna be bad. I didn't know it was gonna be that bad.
Mm.
And yeah, kudos to Wes and kudos to Kevin Williamson in the script. It's all there in the script.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why I love screenwriting and especially horror writing is Kevin Williamson once said that it was all about making it. It was for the page, it was for the read, and you read that script and it's all line by line happening on screen, and it's just brilliant.
Mm.
But yeah, just overall, my overall impression was I love the film. I love that you got to know the characters very well before they got killed off, especially Tatum. Tatum, I still
Yeah.
lament her death, because every time she walks off to that, 'cause, by the time the party happens, by the time she's walking off alone, you're like, I remember being in the theater. I was like, oh shit, this is a horror movie. I forgot, because you're so endeared to these characters by that point, and by the end of the second act, or start of the third act, she's off walking off by her own, on her own. I love that scene. The
Mm.
garage part scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in that entire movie.
Yeah.
Just the way it's edited, and her spunk is she's already like a feisty character. She's already pretty violent with her boyfriend. So when she picks up the bottles and starts throwing it at Ghostface, up until that point, I don't think anyone had ever fought like that. I don't think that the best friend character in a horror film usually just goes off and gets killed or whatever. I'd never seen that. And I remember just the roller coaster aspect in the audience. People were screaming in her corner, like, "Oh my god!" It was the guy behind me, like, "Yo, she's fighting back!" Like we had never seen that. I get chills thinking about it every time. And then of course she makes the wrong choice and goes through the doggy door. But
Yeah.
that
For
scene, the
sure.
fact that it engages you and engages you with the character, she's doing some smart stuff, and then she, you still think about it. And of course, flash forward to who Rose McGowan is as a fighter in real life. Because it wasn't written that way in the script, I have a feeling she threw some pointers towards Wes. It was like, hey, what if I pick up some bottles and use my environment? And it just made her character so great. So that's my impression of Scream One. So that's my
Okay.
long-winded, passionate response to that.
No,
Great.
and I love that scene too, because right before she throws the bottles, you see Ghostface just standing there, and it reminded me so much of Michael Myers in the first Halloween, where he's
Right.
just, it could be anybody under that mask. She doesn't know. She thinks it's, her boyfriend or whoever, and
Right.
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
doesn't
Well, that's
matter.
another thing I like about the movie. They made everybody a suspect, even like people that were only in the movie for a very little bit, like the principal played by Henry Winkler. If you remember that scene where he actually goes after those two students that were just pranking, like he goes after them with a pair of scissors, like he's going, I'm gonna rip your guts out, kind of. Yeah, so I think he's probably the killer. But
I love
you
it. You never know who the killer is going to be, especially in the first movie, because you've never really seen that type of character development or villain. So yeah, the first movie definitely is great in that respect. So yeah, first Scream, amazing. Part two came out the following year, and I love this one. I thought it was brilliant. I love the way that they incorporated stab in there as the meta aspect, the movie within a movie, the opening scene with Jada Pinkett Smith, Omar Epps,
Mhm.
and basically a great death scene there. Great way to open the film. Again, heartbreaking, just like the original. And yeah, again with the killers in this one, I did not expect Mickey and Mrs. Loomis. I thought that was a brilliant twist that they worked together. It didn't work out in the end for either of them, but it was great that we see Nev and everybody in a new setting. They've kind of evolved a little bit in the past year, and they're trying to move on with their lives, but just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, we get this. Brian, what were your thoughts on part two?
Well, by the time part two was announced and was coming out, I was already like a Scream fanatic. I had made all my friends either go see it in the theater. They played Scream on our campus, and
Mm.
so by the time it was on VHS, I was like, "Have you seen Scream? Have you seen Scream?" And then Scream Two came out. But even before that, a friend of mine got a copy of the notorious leaked script,
Mm.
and I tore through that thing I had to read it. It was like my Harry Potter. And so seeing in the theater,
Mm.
Some things have changed, but it was just great to read Williamson's stuff on the page. But yeah, my first impression of the film was I liked it. It did all the sequel things that I knew it would do, and it was even calling attention to it. Everyone had sequel hair. Everyone looked different. It was bigger. It's actually a. I saw it again recently. I think it was last year around Bryant Park. They had a screening,
Cool.
uh, and it was so much fun to see it on a big screen again. It's a beautiful film. I mean, it's got the greenery of the campus, and everyone's got like highlights in their hair. Everything about it is just like the art direction. It's just beautiful. And then of course you have the blood and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I did see the sort of Scooby Doo aspect of where it was starting to head in terms of the reveal. It's
Right.
fine. I mean, it's the natural progression if they're gonna to do that. But yeah, it was just playing into all the different sequel things. Everything was bigger, and death scenes were elaborate.
Mm.
By that point, everyone in Young Hollywood wanted to be in it, so that's why literally everyone in Young Hollywood is in it. And yeah, it's a fun movie. It's fast, and you see the progression of Nev's character. You're right there with her, and again, it's playing up the sequel rules of she's now Ellen Ripley, she's Linda Hamilton, she's doing that whole thing. The opening scene, of course, was harkening back to there was a film called He Knows You're Alone from the '80s. It was Tom
Right.
Hanks's first film, and
Right.
it's noted in the script, but it's not mentioned in the film. I guess they cut it out in the draft. But that, yeah, the death in the movie theater, it sort of inspired the Jada Pinkett's scene, which is much more elaborate in Scream 2. But
Yeah.
overall, it's one of my favorite sequels. And we'll get into the ranking soon, but yeah, it's one
For
of my
sure.
favorite
And,
sequels. So
and also, there is a scene that takes place in one of the college classrooms. It's like film studies, and they're talking
mhm.
about sequels in the sequel. I love that scene. Timothy Oliphant is in it, who ends up being the killer, and I love his interplay between him and Jamie Kennedy. That's just I think that might be one of my favorite scenes, aside from some of the death scenes, including but not limited to the scene in the cop car
Mhm.
where Nev they had just crashed a car, and basically she's crawling over Ghostface, who she thinks is unconscious, and she finally gets out, and you guys know the rest. That scene will always linger in my mind. It's just so brilliant, and Wes Craven, God bless you, sir. That was an amazing direction right there. Uh,
That was on the page, and it was in the script. It was just Nev, because in the original draft, Hallie was, I think, one of the killers, so she wasn't with her in that scene.
oh, okay.
So yeah, it was a nice surprise when she's in that scene with her, and I'm like, oh well, it's Nev got out. I don't know what's happening here, and so it got the audience going.
That's cool. I love that. I love that.
And
Thomas, part two. And guys, we're a little tight on time. I want to get to all of the
Yeah.
installments. Sorry.
okay, I'll try to be well. Okay, so I personally really do like Scream 2 myself. I mean, like, I do think it's still only just a tad little overrated because I saw it has like the highest rating on Rotten Tomato out of all of them, which
Hmm.
it's a little pushing it, but I still overall think it's one of the better sequels and one of the better ones in the series. I did
Right.
like the college campus setting. I did like I actually did like the cameo from Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was pretty big at the time for being in Buffy the Vampire Slayer at that time. And like, I also
And I
did
know what you
like,
did last summer.
oh yes, I know Summer. Yeah, that came out the same year for that
Yeah.
matter. And like, I also did like how like the climax of the movie takes place in the college theater, like on the stage. They have the whole big shootouts. I did also really like how they did elaborate a little more on the subplot in the first movie. So you remember in the first movie they bring up how Cotton Weary, who's played by Liev Schreiber, that they think he murdered Sid's mother, and so they elaborate a little more on this one to give Cotton a bigger role. So, and I do of course like what they do with Cotton now. They pretty much make him the hero, because like a guy that you thought was the killer in the first movie, a guy that you pretty much probably would think is gonna be the killer in this one, they make him the hero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this movie, this installment really has a lot going for it. And I remember seeing it, I think I was about maybe 11 or 12, and it freaked me out. It really did. And that's a true, that's a compliment to the filmmakers here. And well, I don't want to get into the rankings just yet because we're only at number 3. So yeah, the third one, they are producing in this storyline, they are producing the third stab, and basically things get a little crazy behind the scenes of the production. We've got some new faces, most notably Parker Posey. I think she was fantastic in this as the fake Gale Weathers. And we've got Nev, she's back at it. We've got Dewey, we've got Gale as well. A lot of people give this movie a lot of flack. I think it's because Kevin Williamson was not present for this. He was not involved at all. I think he had some other commitments around this time. It was this came out in 2000, so he had some other issues, other things there. But I actually think it's a pretty decent film. It's not a great film by any means, but it is entertaining. It's got some creative death scenes. I love the scene in the mountain house, the mountain mansion. Well, no, it's not a mansion, but it's a house on a hill, and basically it blows up. It kills one of the characters. I think that was a really well done scene. There's also a pretty good performance from Patrick Warburton as a security guard, who's basically there trying to protect. Was it Parker Posey's character? I think
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. So he was great. He has a very vicious death scene. The opening scene has Cotton Weary getting, well, there's no spoilers at this point. He gets killed in the first scene. I thought that scene kind of harkened back to the first film, and it felt like, just really good setup there. And basically this feeling of helplessness, especially with your loved ones. And yeah, I did not see that coming. It was a great way to open the film. But Brian, what did you think of the third installment here?
This one was definitely the lighter of the series. This is where the Scooby-Doo-esque aspect really shows itself. I think Columbine shooting had happened before this, or something had happened before
Yeah,
this that affected the violence in the film. They had sort of scaled back. And again, Kevin Williamson, because he was such a singular voice on Scream and Scream 2. I think it's sort of missing that in 3. He might have written like a treatment or something. I think he had done. I think that was the extent of it. He had written the treatment and given them, you know, he was working on his TV shows and but
right.
there was something missing again with the humor. There's something lacking there, um, and definitely with the kills. They were pretty stab, you're done. That's it. It was like very simple. So yeah, but Parker Posey is the person, I think the one that you think about the most. That and Courtney Cox's bangs, but we don't go there. But yeah, Parker Posey's character, she brings the humor. I think she knew what
Right.
she was in, and just had fun with it. And she's like the spark that keeps that movie afloat. Um,
Mm,
and there, the fight scene at the end between Nev and who is then revealed to be the killer, her brother.
right.
I thought that fight scene was great. I thought it was the intensity that the movie lacked overall, but that scene really stood out because I thought there was some real stakes there. That's
Yeah.
that's what we're always looking for in these movies is the stakes.
Okay.
So
I mean, there are some really, really great moments in this film. It's just kind of scattered.
right,
It's not too focused, which was my main complaint.
right.
I think the script could have used some tightening. There are some scenes that didn't really mesh. There was a good scene with Sydney Prescott as she's basically evading a new killer in her fake house set.
The soundstage, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I love that part. Also, there is a great, I don't know if it's a cameo because he's got a pretty, not a significant role, but he's in the movie. Lance Henriksen as the director, producer. He was great. I wanted to see more of him. And, when he gets killed, that was kind of a bummer. But, I was expecting that because he did cast Sydney's mother and had some like real, I think they had like an orgy with her in like a Hollywood party or something like that.
Well, it's
Um,
interesting that would be, the movies produced by the Weinsteins is like it just went over their head. They're pretty much saying it all in the script.
yeah,
It was all
good
right there.
take.
Yeah.
Very good observation. Yeah, yeah. um, Thomas, did I get to you for part 3 here? Okay, you're up, sir.
Yeah. Well, part three is personally my least favorite one in the series, but I overall do not hate it. So
Okay.
just because it's my least favorite, I don't in general hate it because yeah, there was some great moments, some pretty fun scenes, but like I do think they like went a little too far with the humor aspect because I mean there was like there was like just a random cameo from Jay and Silent Bob calling Courtney Cox Connie Chung and which was quite ridiculous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And like yeah, but the scenes with Gail Weathers and Parker Posey was pretty funny. So yeah, and also there was that little cameo from Carrie Fisher where she actually literally even makes fun of herself, saying like that she auditioned for the Princess Leia role and they gave it to the girl who sleeps with George Lucas.
That's a great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those are some really love those cameos. Yeah, awesome.
Oh yeah, but I did like how they did like elaborate on Sydney's mother's past, like like talking about like how she was an actress in Hollywood and yeah, that whole orgy thing that you said, and that's actually what came about with the killer in this one. So like we find out that the killer in this was actually the mastermind behind her murder, and
Right.
so yeah, so like pretty much he was the one that was pretty much following her around, filming her having affairs with Billy's father and having an affair with Cotton Weary,
Right.
and it's pretty much like yeah, he showed videos to Billy, and so which pretty much made Billy kill her like for having an affair with his father, and also since he saw that Cotton was involved as well, so he framed Cotton.
Right. It's such a tangled web of secrets and lies and
Mhm.
conflicts, and I think that coupled with the humor makes the franchise so great. Also, I'm on the Wikipedia page right now, and I'm looking at the poster for Scream 3. Tagline is "The most terrifying scream is always the last."
Yeah, they
So
lied.
yeah, they had no
Yeah,
idea.
he's
23
scary one.
years later, three more installments after this. So interesting. But I like it. I saw it when it first came out back in 2000, and I didn't love it. I saw it, I rewatched it about a week ago, and I think it got better with age. And I hope that audiences will appreciate this one because this one really gets a lot of flack. I enjoy.
Something I noticed, like people giving it flack, was the voice changer that Ghostface uses in this one. Firstly, I actually thought the voice changer was pretty cool because he was able to disguise his voice as other people, like fooling Cotton's girlfriend in the beginning. So yeah, so I actually personally liked the voice changer he used.
Even
Okay.
fooling Cotton, it's almost implied that that was Maureen's voice that got him in there. Like I don't know how he would have had it, but
Hmm.
it's almost it's he had like just a sort of older woman's voice that kind of got his attention.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tricky. Oh, also, Roger L. Jackson, the voice of Ghostface, infamous
yeah,
voice. He's a voice actor, and he is obviously most well known as the voice of Ghostface. So I think we should give him a little credit here. He's basically
absolutely, yeah.
the voice of the franchise.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so 3. We just did 3, and now we're fast forwarding 11 years to part 4. And this one is very meta. Basically, it's about it focuses on a new crop of characters here. We've got Kevin Williamson back as the writer, and they're back in Woodsboro. We've got this new generation of victims, and I think this, it took them 11 years, I guess, to come up with this idea to basically inject new life into the franchise, and I think it really works very well. I love I believe, was this the opening where they had like different girls?
Multiples, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I think Kristen Bell was part of one of those segments,
Hmm.
and it was just so funny because they kept dying and dying and dying. You didn't know what was real, and yeah, that sense of like what's going to happen next, that sense of surprise is what made the first 2 films great. And this movie kind of picks up where that left off. I enjoyed it really immensely, actually. This is one of my favorites. And yeah, it really is a strong entry. Brian, what did you think of part 4?
I'll probably have less to say on this one. I saw it in the theater. It was fine. It was entertaining. With a crowd. Over time when I revisited it, it's not one of my favorites. Maybe because of of what's come before. I know it's Williamson. He's back, and Nev is back. There's something in the film, in the framing, and the lighting of the film that's distracting. Also, it's just the humor wasn't quite there, or the characters just didn't breathe. I think by that point the cast knew they were in a Scream film, so it wasn't like they were sort of bringing necessarily their A game. Emma Roberts, yeah, she does a good job, and it's an interesting motive. It's original for its time, and it sort of foreshadowed where we are now in terms of people doing things for likes and attention. And I think I don't want friends. I need fans. That's a really potent line that still rings true. I just overall didn't feel anything for any of the characters that got killed, because they just didn't reach out as characters to me. Like Olivia has like one of the most brutal death scenes, and I'm like, it was brutal, but it was just like I don't know her like a Tatum, or even a Hallie, or I didn't really get
Okay.
connected to her. So and that's part of the Scream thing, is that you get connected to these characters where you don't want them to die. Like every time they announce a new one, I get stressed out because I'm like, oh great, we just have to go through another one. I didn't
Fair.
feel anything throughout this particular one. Hayden Panettiere as Kirby was really the shining light of this film. That's, I think, why she stood out to fans, and they wanted some closure, because she never physically stopped moving when she got stabbed. So the fact that we had to wait so long for her to come back was, says a lot. But I think she was my favorite part of the movie. The ending ran a little long,
Mm.
and yeah, it was all right. It was all right. There was no real. I didn't feel a lot of stakes towards our main characters.
True. There,
There was
the
a lot of
stakes.
brutality towards them, but the stakes ultimately weren't that high. So, eh,
Yeah, a lot of these characters had a lot of potential, especially Rory Culkin, who ends up one of the killers. I love him. I love the whole Culkin acting family,
he's
but
a
I
good
thought
actor. Yeah.
his performance was great. I think he was my shining light. Um, but yeah, I agree. The character development is not really there, but and I mean the death scenes are decent, but I don't. I just like the fact that they returned to the franchise after so long, 11 years. Even though it's not the greatest of films, I do enjoy it quite a bit, just because that they try to reintroduce the world. Um, Thomas, what did you think of part 4 here?
Well, part 4 was actually one I hold pretty close to me because it was the first Scream movie I saw in theaters. I
Okay.
actually remember seeing it in the theater. I saw it the midnight showing of it, pretty much like the day before it came out, and like I had pretty much a blast seeing it. And like, but I do like think it probably like didn't age too well, like because yeah, like you can see it's a little lacking here and there. But I mean, I did like Emma Roberts' character and Rory Culkin's, like the ones you just said, and of course Hayden Panettiere. And I also did like how they were like saying that like that the horror genre has changed over since the third movie, like how they were like saying like how virgins can now die, and like that in order to survive you have to be gay, which was pretty funny, especially like when Rory Culkin's friend gets killed, where he's like, oh wait, you have rules, I'm gay. Yeah, that scene always like made me laugh. And like I also did like how the ending of the movie took place in a hospital, because it kind of gave me some like Halloween 2 vibes with that whole part.
Mhm.
And yeah, and like I also did like what's his name, Anthony Anderson's character, the way he gets killed when he gets the knife through the forehead,
Oh
and then
God, yeah,
goes,
that's
F Bruce Willis.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
disturbing. Um,
yeah. So overall, I mean, I enjoy it, but yeah, it has. I don't think it aged too well, but I do. You gotta, of course, appreciate for what it is, especially the fact that it was Wes Craven's last movie before his
mhm.
passing.
Right.
Right. I
Mhm.
think it was a return to form for Craven, and it was a really nice send off. So I'm glad that he finished out his career in such a positive way, because I think this was a a nice way to say goodbye. So
Yeah.
I
I
remember
was
when,
actually even okay if this one was the last one. I didn't think we 100% needed a fifth movie.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that will lead into the next installment, which is part 5. And this again tries to, you know, reintroduce some new characters. We've got some interesting death scenes. They bring back the legacy characters, and at this point, this is a requel, right, guys, or a reboot? Requel?
It's a requel.
Requel, yeah. Um, it's a decent film. I enjoyed Jenna Ortega. She's a really hot young talent right now. She, you know, because of Wednesday, but she did this film a year before, last year actually.
Yeah.
And
She
you
was
know,
also in X.
oh, she was in X. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's a great film, by the way. Yeah, so basically we've got the legacy characters and the new characters returning. They're in Woodsboro, and this is was this 26 years later. And yeah, I mean, it's a decent film. It's one of my lesser. We're going to be doing the rankings in just a minute, but you know, I expected much more. I was kind of just meh with this one. I was a little let down. It was, you know, it was just whatever. I think they could have stopped at part 4. But Brian, what do you think of Scream 2022?
Scream 2022, I thought was pretty good. It had those, it's obviously it's not Wes Craven directing, but I think it had enough moments that harken back to what Wes understood about the genre, and you know, creating the tension and the suspense. And plus, I think he was once quoted as saying, like, real horror is harm to the body, and so there's always that anticipation of, there's a sharp knife. When is it gonna appear? When and who's gonna get it and how's it gonna get it? So I think the strongest moments I thought were in that centerpiece of, Judy Hicks, Wes Hicks, and leading into, you know, unfortunate Dewey's demise. That
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 punch really was very strong in that central part of the film, particularly Judy's death. I thought her scene with the sort of John Wick stabbing, or that was pretty brutal. That was unlike a ghost face we'd seen before. But I thought the direction of it was great. How it cuts to the wide shot, and you can't help her. It's just like
Yeah.
that to me. The craft of it was like very Craven-esque. It was like, okay, this is the new Ghostface, and there was a cruelty there that we hadn't really seen. It was always cruel, but it was usually like the aftermath, or we saw it, in you know classy sort of cutaways. This was
Right.
just like, okay, we're just going there. So yeah, overall, I thought it was fine. I love the I didn't love the necessarily the reveal of the killers at the end, but I was like, okay, well, where are we going with this? And then finally, I liked their demise. I thought it was well deserved, both of them. And again, I went into this sort of thinking the way Ghostface was such a brutal killer and so cruel, and the way we saw it, I was like, it's got to be a legacy character. They're bringing back Billy, and it's got to be
Right.
someone from the past. Even Billy's father's still out there, but I don't know. He might be too old now, but who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, it's there's just so many ways they could have done it, but they did it with the boyfriend again, and it was in the kitchen again, and that sort of thing. But it was fine overall. It was fine. I think the stakes were brought back.
Okay.
Uh, that's what Scream has always been. It's always been about the stakes. So
Right. And I love Dewey's fall from grace. I love that storyline here, where
uh,
he's no longer the sheriff. He's kind of an alcoholic, and I would have liked to like a film just focusing on his character arc, and his relationship with Gail. Kind of, it was really heartbreaking when he was killed in this one. But that's the way it goes with these requels. But and also new directors Matt Bettinelli Open and Tyler Gillette, they served as directors on this. So I think they definitely took a page out of Wes Craven's book. So that was really nice to
they're
see.
known as Radio Silence, and they did Radio Not. So
Okay, nice. Okay, Thomas, last word on Scream 2022.
Yeah, like I actually really enjoyed Scream 2022 as well. I mean, I did think, like, it wasn't as good as everyone made it out to be, but like I really, like, enjoyed like the callbacks to the previous movies, and like I also really liked how they like were returning to some of the original locations. Like I really really enjoyed the nostalgia feel of this one. And like I did like how they brought back the three legacy characters. I do wish they were in it more though, which was one of my little gripes with it, as I felt like, you know, they could have been in the movie a little more, especially Sydney. Um, yeah, but I also did like seeing, like, you know, Skeet Ulrich coming back as like an hallucination, and that they put him in, like, you know, his original bloody shirt that he was wearing at the end of the first movie, as well as also de-aging him, making him look like, or as best as they could make him look like how he was in the first movie. So, and like well, when I saw, like, you know, his first cameo, I have a feeling like I was like, I had this feeling that I knew what her connection would be, that she's actually his daughter. And I actually point out how that actually did work, because, like, if you remember in the first Scream movie, the very beginning, and with Billy and Sid in her room, they were talking about how their relationship was going downhill ever since her mother was murdered. So you could probably assume maybe Billy would cheat on her at some point.
Hmm, okay. Good take, sir. Good take.
We're
Yeah,
still waiting to
yeah,
see the mom though. I think there was some fan rumors and fan, you know, wish lists of like Salma Hayek to play the mom, or someone in that range. But I think she'd be of the age.
Wait, to play Billy's mom?
No,
no, Sam,
Sam and Tara's mom. She's the only character that hasn't really shown her face.
Hmm.
She's been in London. I joked that she was in London because she was working with Magic Mike. 'Cause she happened to somewhat was in that London one. But I don't know. We'll see. Well, you know, maybe she'll. I have my theories, but no one, you know, there's a writer strike, so I'm not going to pitch any ideas. But I have my theories
yeah,
on what they could do with
Keep
the
that
next.
close to the chest.
Exactly,
Put that in
exactly.
the vault.
I talk too much sometimes.
No.
yeah.
Um,
Well, overall though, I did like Scream 2022. I mean, like, they had some pretty brutal kills. I really loved the nostalgia feel,
yeah.
and I did like this one actually joke that I've actually pointed out to a lot of people, how they were talking about the Stab series, and how the eighth one was, like, you know, the one that people really hated, and it was directed by the Knives Out guy. That was obviously a little nod to Rian Johnson, and because he directed Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which was also the eighth installment, and which people also were claiming was the worst one. So that was like a whole little joke towards him.
That
And
is
I did hear that he had a good sense of humor about that, so it wasn't something he was taking an insult over.
nice. I love that tongue-in-cheek humor for sure. All right, guys. So we are almost out of time, and I just want to do really quickly. I was curious what your rankings are for this all 6 films. I will start things off. We'll do from worst to best, and I will go. All right, for me, it's 6, 5, 3, 4, 1, and 2 is my favorite, actually. So, yeah. Brian, how about you, sir?
I will go, and you know, there's no bad Scream. It's just, you know, my ranking.
Right.
Uh, so you said bad. So from lowest to okay. So Scream 4, and just joking. Scream the series. Scream 3,
Okay.
Scream 6, Scream 5, Scream 2, and Scream the
Nice.
original.
Nice. Oh, before we get to you, Thomas, I just want to, did you guys, I only saw the trailer for the first, I think, season of Scream, the TV series. Is it
I
any
watched.
good? Does it
It's
connect with the films at all?
it's not tied to the films really, but it is a small town with a history, and there's a killer with a mask that looks vaguely like the Scream mask, but it's different enough that it's its own thing.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of almost like well, no, it's kind of like in the way of like Slasher the series, but I think Slasher kind of did it first. But the 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 thing I liked about the Scream series was that each episode would end with like a brutal death or an unexpected twist, usually with involving a lot of bloodshed, which, you know, at least kept you watching, you know, wanting more. The characters were fine, the acting was fine. There's an actor, Bex Taylor Kloss, who's really good. Should play like, I keep thinking Bex could play like young Demi Moore. I'm not sure if Bex is pronounced, so that's what I'm saying, Bex. But yeah, overall, I thought the film was really the show was pretty good. It got a little wonky towards the end, but you know, it's all under the same umbrella of that franchise, but it's not part of Woodsboro.
Gotcha. Okay, just checking on that, and it's got the same font as the screen.
Yeah, well, yeah, they gotta trick viewers somehow, you know.
Right. Okay. Nice. Thomas, what is your ranking, sir?
Okay, my ranking, and well, just like what Brian said, I also don't hate any of these movies. I just think some are better than others. So I like all these movies, so I don't hate any of them. Just ones are just stronger than others. Okay, well, anyway, so my ranking would be 3, 6, 5, 4, 2, and then 1.
And one. Okay. Cool. Good to know, guys. Good to know. Then I'm in the minority here with part 2 is my favorite. Okay. But maybe I don't know, maybe 1 and 2 are equal for me, but I think 2 packs more of a punch. I don't know what it is. It's just the tension is so great, especially the Sarah Michelle Gellar scene and the stuff with Jerry O'Connell and as the boyfriend. It was just, I don't know, there were so many real great aspects of that movie, really strong moments. But all right.
I've seen a lot of reviewers online and on Twitter rank 2 above 1.
Yeah.
That's fair. I usually stick with 1 as the first one because it's the original. It's what gave us 2. But yeah, 2 is definitely the bigger, has more elaborate the chase scenes and in the studio. That's one of my favorites. But I think, yeah, 1 is fun. It just sets that tone. We'll never have that moment again of seeing, basically my childhood gutted and hung from a swing, Drew Barrymore. She was age appropriate for the audience, and it was like if you'd grown up watching movies, you knew her, and it was just like it was a shock. It was bone chilling. So I always
True.
put that first one as that first experience.
That's awesome. And going back to 2, and Brian, I know you're a film score buff, like
Mhm.
myself. So they use a piece of music, a theme from Hans Zimmer's Broken Arrow,
Yeah.
for the Dewey character. And Danny Elfman supplied, I think, a piece of music during one of the stage scenes. So you've got Hans Zimmer and Danny Elfman in the same movie. So I mean, come on, that never happens, really.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we have just a few minutes. I just want to do some coming attractions for this week. Stuff that's going to be released in theaters. And as of May 31st, we've got an action film called Shin Kamen Rider. June 1st, we've got 2 films. One is a horror. It's called Hunted. We have another horror thriller called The Lachrymose Primrose. And then June 2nd is a big date. We've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, followed by The Boogeyman horror film, obviously. We've got a dramedy called Montreal Girls. We've got a film called SOG, The Book of Ward. And yeah, I think that's about it for the coming attractions. Just want to go around real quick, guys. Do you have any plugs tonight? Anything you're working on you want to talk about, Mr. Smith?
Well, I'm with the New York City Horror Film Festival. Submissions are open now, so now through September, I believe. So get your features, shorts, films, and scripts in. I'm also a reviewer with Gruesome Magazine, and so we have there's a podcast and a YouTube channel, and yeah, check me out over there.
Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. Thomas, anything for you, sir?
Well, I'll be going to Texas Frightmare Weekend this coming weekend. So we'll have some pretty cool horror guests, like John Carpenter will be there. Yeah, a few of the Halloween people will be there, like Nick Castle, James Jude Courtney. They also have some of the sleepaway camp people like Felissa Rose, Catherine Kemi, Christopher Collette, and they also do have a couple of people from the show Twin Peaks, like Cheryl Lee and Ray Wise. So they got some pretty good lineup at this event, which I'm excited to attend.
Okay. That's awesome. When is that?
It's this coming weekend, May 26th, 27th, 28th.
I love it. I love that. And are you gonna meet John Carpenter? Do you have plans to meet the man?
I do have plans. I mean, definitely hope I could meet him. Hopefully it's not too crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he is my big one that I really want to meet.
What are you gonna get autographed if you do meet him?
I plan to have him autograph some of the Halloween posters I own,
The original, I hope. Perfect.
along with a couple of the other ones that he worked on.
Cool. All right, and also we've got New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. It's not until August 18th, 19th, and 20th. And that's at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center in Edison, New Jersey. And I've been to the New Jersey HorrorCon at in Atlantic City, actually, the Showboat Hotel. And it is a star-studded affair. I had a great time a couple of years back. I met Bernie Lomax from Weekend at Bernie's, Mr. Terry Kaiser. That was cool. And there were, Edward Furlong was there, Danny Cooksey from Terminator 2, just to name a few. It's a great venue. It's a great event. So I'm thinking about attending this year. I don't know, but I would love to meet. I think they're doing a Fright Night reunion with William Ragsdale, Amanda Bierce, and I forget the you would probably know, Thomas. Who plays evil in the Fright Night?
Stephen Jeffries.
Stephen Jeffries, right? Okay, yeah. So I believe that the three of them will be at New Jersey HorrorCon. So yeah, I will have more details for that in future posts, but just heads up to my two horror experts right here.
I gotta look into that. Because I'm going to Tribeca, so that put like a bit of dent in my wallet. But I have to look into the New Jersey one because I feel like Amanda she keeps eluding me every year. I want to meet her, and she always comes locally, and I'm like I can never get there. So hopefully maybe I can swing it this year.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about maybe going together, possibly.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And as for my plugs, so I just about a month ago, I started contributing movie reviews to a live radio station through SiriusXM. It's every Thursday morning at 8:40 a.m. Eastern on Slam Radio XM through Sirius. The show is called Good Morning Amigo. And yeah, for about 20 minutes every Thursday, I supply some movie reviews, something new and something old, keep things kind of, fresh and fun. So that's the news from me regarding the radio stuff. Also, if you want to see new episodes of Under the Radar, as well as reruns, you can tune in every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Also on cable channels, cable TV rather, FiOS 34, RCN Astound 83, and Spectrum 56 and 1996. And don't forget to visit the Under the Radar YouTube channel to subscribe and share. So that about does it for me. Gentlemen, Thomas, Brian, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a lot of fun. You guys are always welcome. And I guess I'll see you again and definitely see you for Scream 7.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. Great, guys. Well, I'm Randy Younger. This has been Under the Radar. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.